Hello, everybody again. So I think we'll be starting in the next minute or two. I'll just say briefly what the meetings are about. I think I mentioned it in the welcome meeting. It's about finding the link. It's for those that want to be enlightened, inspired, empowered to find the links in their relationships and to have healthier relationships. So thank you for joining in, everyone who's joined early. I'm expecting some other people might join us as we go along, but we'll cut straight to the chase, okay? So today's meeting is about motives. It's about motives, and I'll just share my screen shortly so that we go through the slideshow, which will not be too long. And hopefully we can contribute as we go along. I'm Temitope Praisingchild, by the way, but I think almost everybody on the platform already knows who I am. Okay. Right. So find the link, week 1. We'll be talking about motives and backgrounds. It's going to involve a bit of asking questions. And this is the session for the men. I think I can see some women, but they are surrounded by men. So I won't talk too much. Okay. So sorry about that blank slide. It was about the need to ask questions and why, if you don't ask any questions, it's either you know everything or you don't know anything about it. So this question is a bit of a busy slide, but it's about what do I want? And people have different reasons why they want something in particular. Some want people that are presentable. Some want people because they're beautiful or handsome. That's beauty of the brawn. Other people because they're intelligent. Other people because of their status in society or because they're from a respectable family. And these are all really good things. It's not bad. It's not one size fits all. Some want someone who is rich, who is respectful, who is spiritual. These are good traits. Someone who is hardworking, someone who is resourceful, that can make something out of nothing, someone who is homely or domesticated, someone who is fun-loving or funny. And these are things people want for different reasons. But it's just to think about, why do I want this? Or if I am married, why did I want it then? Because people do evolve. Okay, and so the breakdown, this is not supposed to be the breakdown. This is supposed to be putting it together. We can classify it into, it might be due to how they look, what they have, who they are, or how they make us appear or feel. And these are not bad things in themselves, but they all need to be taken together to decide whether they are good reasons for choosing a person. Okay, and then the other reason is, why do I want that? What's the reason? And these are just some examples of why people want a spouse, for instance, in this case. And it might be because they need help, because they need a companion, because they need a cook. Well, I dare say they can get cooks. Might be because they need a bedmate, because they need a prayer warrior. Maybe they need somebody to pray for them, or they feel they are weak in that area and they would need someone who would be prayerful. Some because they need to be respected, and being associated with that person confers on them a certain degree of respect. Some of these are very deep things that might not be very obvious unless we are choosing to ask ourselves questions. And some of them might be because they want to be in a particular status group. So it might be someone's relation is maybe a governor of a state, for instance. So anybody that has that person as a spouse is automatically converted into the higher ranks of society. And your special person also has motives as well. And there's nothing wrong in having a motive for something. It's good to have intentions. It's good to have desires. It's good to have goals. It's good to have plans. But then we need to weigh them as, why are we having these motives? What is the issue? What are the issues that these bring up? Are these things that are going to last? Are they going to be important in 5 years' time? Are they going to be important if something drastic Mrs. Aedo, do you mind muting your microphone? Thank you. And that special person also hopes you tick all their boxes as well. So there are some preconceived ideas that I'll probably want to bring to the fore. Just a minute. Mommy, please, can you mute your microphone? Okay.
All right. Microphone.
Thank you. If you tap on the microphone, you will mute it, but you will still hear me. But I won't hear you. Okay, preconceived ideas. So there are some preconceived ideas, and some of the ideas are that religious people make good spouses, that people that attend church are spiritual people. I think if we attend church, we probably already know that not everybody that attends church are necessarily spiritual people. That people from good homes are respectful or would be good at home. That younger spouses are easier to handle or grow with. That marrying a younger person means there will be no problems health-wise. That if you choose someone from your tribe, it means you would understand each other. These are preconceived ideas. And I'd like us to think about them or ask questions or comment about them as we go along. Okay. These are things you might already be familiar with. And part of the preconceived ideas are that we love each other. I know he or she will adjust. Part of the preconceived ideas is that love is all we need. We have left the future to God. Or he or she will change with time. Or he or she will not change. Both of them, I would say, are quite wrong, because people sometimes do not change and people sometimes change. I think it really depends on the kind of person. Those are things that cannot be said from the outset, but people do change what they believe and their orientations over time. And there's people that already have core values and those will not change. However, things like people's health can change, people's location can change, people's vocation can change. Then there are things about, I don't care where they are from, we can make it work. Though love is incredibly powerful, it is quite important to care about where people are from, which is their nuclear home settings, their national settings, their cultural settings. These are things that are all important. So it would be wrong to settle for these preconceived ideas because they might lead one into some form of error. And then there's some other ideas like he or she is so possessive, it makes me feel so special. Sometimes these can also be red flags because it can be from a place of insecurity. Other preconceived ideas, which is quite prevalent in many environments, is that money is everything. Most people that have taken time to reflect about life or about the brevity of life already know that money is not everything. Other preconceived ideas are that if he has money, I will be okay, or if she has money, if she has a job, we'll be fine. And other people think, especially men to women folk, they think if they give a woman money, it means they can do as they please, or it makes them exert some form of control. Money is very powerful, nonetheless, but it would be erroneous to think that money makes you able to control everything and everybody. And there are other preconceived ideas that people's spouses would like to continue working. Women nowadays believe that a woman taking care of children in the home is very important, and they do not have plans to continue working after they start a family. They want to devote time to their children. So these are preconceived ideas that will need to be worked on or talked through, because it might be okay for one person, but it might not be okay for the second person. And then it now comes from who told you. Mrs. Aedo, please mute your microphone. Okay. Mute your microphone. If you tap on the microphone,
okay.
if you tap on the microphone, you'll see a red line over it. That means your microphone is muted. Please mute your microphone. Thank you. Okay, never mind. I'll just mute everybody. Okay. So I've muted everybody. If you'd like to speak, please raise up your hand at any point. So the next thing is that who told you? And thank you for those who just joined. I was on the last, I have just spoken about preconceived ideas, so I've just gone to that slide for those that just joined, so that you know what we are talking about before we land on who told you. Okay, so it's about where did you get this information from? Is the source of information fallible? Can the source be trusted? Things like that. Okay, so there are other things there. We would call them prejudice. And parts of them that are quite prevalent is that people that are too old will be disrespectful to men. This is usually based on the fact that a lot of men feel that, not even a lot, well, a lot of men have a desire to be respected. But generally, I think all human beings should be respected, regardless of their gender or their age. They should be respected because they are God's creation. They should be respected because you have a choice and you can decide to respect somebody. But some people have an idea that if someone is too old, especially a woman, she might not be respectful to them. Or that if somebody is too young, they will be immature. And that goes a lot of the time, the women feel towards the men. That if they're younger than they are likely to be immature, which is not usually the case. But many times, younger men may not be as mature in emotional issues as women are. Take, for instance, most women from when they were young have been groomed in a particular way. They're kind of being groomed to get married, but most men have never been brought up that way, have never been groomed to be good husbands or good fathers. And sadly, not everybody has had a good example growing up. So sometimes there can be a mismatch. The other example I can give is that if you probably pick 10 women from where I grew up, you probably heard like 7 of them saying things like, I've been to 10 marriage seminars. But if you pick the average young man, they've probably not attended 3 or 4. And those are the ones that are really eager up until the time they got married. So there's usually some disconnects. There's usually some disconnect about their beliefs generally. And then there's the other prejudice that if someone is highly intellectual, they will be proud. And the book I read, that is my source code of conduct that rules my conduct, does say that knowledge can puff up. So some people have a lot of knowledge and they spare no thoughts in spreading it around to let everybody know that this is what I know, what do you know? Well, that is pride. And you should not think that because you know something, other people don't know something, or you are not able to learn from them. I'm a learner in many ways, and I like to learn from people. I like to learn from animals, insects. The list is endless. There's no end to learning. But that is a detour from these topics I'm talking about at the moment. So yes, highly intellectual people are usually very knowledgeable, and it is something that can be harnessed and that can be used in a couple that are unified. It can be a great source of help, but not necessarily people who are intellectual will be proud. There are many highly intellectual and intelligent people who are very humble and are eager to learn. There are other people that think someone is too simple, they will not be able to stand in public, or they will not be able to interact with maybe your group of people. But sometimes that kind of prejudice comes from a place of superiority. And superiority complex is actually a form of inferiority, in which people think that they are high above everybody else and everyone needs to be bowing down to them because of who they are, but it's actually because they feel quite insecure. And then there are other forms of prejudice, like someone's not from my tribe, not from my race. It might be really difficult. I wouldn't say difficult. I'll probably say it might be a bit challenging, but those challenges are not insurmountable. And those are sometimes some of the prejudices that come up when people say, I cannot be involved with this person. I cannot be involved with that person. And sometimes that also happens because of hearsay. In some cases, because of experience. But one experience does not mean that that is what the whole tribe or the whole race is about. And I think in every tribe, in every race, you'll see fantastic people. And so prejudice is something that is not good. It means before you meet somebody, it means before they even open their mouths, it means you've already decided that there's something wrong with them. And that's not a good way to interact with people, or it's not a way to bring people close or connect with them, because the thing that about them is that they are different and we're all different. So as you think they're a bit strange, they might think you're a bit strange, but it all has to be about, are we willing to come to a unified front? Are we willing to connect on the things that are we willing to connect on the things that we both agree on? Okay. And then there are other prejudices among people who are either single or married, and that is they feel that if they are far apart, they are more likely to be cheated on. And that is very widespread. And it's widespread because of, so maybe it's the media, maybe because of things that have happened, but it bellies people that do not have a degree of self-control, who do not have character. And sometimes it's people who are not together in mind. So if a couple are not unified, or a couple are not, they don't take time to communicate with each other, this is something that is more likely to happen. So in a situation where there is complete trust and confidence, a very strong affection, these are things that will not really matter. The distance will not matter. However, young couples are encouraged to stay together because they are just getting to know each other, especially in the first few years of their marriages. Okay, and then this is another question about what informed this belief. Do you have any of these beliefs? Can you trust the sources? So from the sages, just a few quotes. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Meaning it's okay to think about things, it's okay to reflect about things, but we should not start making decisions without coming to our own personal conclusions about them, because we've all been given our minds for a reason. Unfortunately, there are people that are not able to make decisions on their own, but for the sake of this group, we are talking about people who have been bestowed with the ability to make decisions on their own and to make conclusions based on the information they have received. And the second quote is from John Carlos, which says, no matter how good a teacher may be, each student must take the responsibility for his own education. Or as the English would say, education. Okay, so it just means that we need to be responsible. And in this group and in these sessions, we'll be talking about people who are responsible. Most of the inferences are going to be speaking to people who are responsible or prepared to be more responsible with their decision making. And being responsible does not necessarily mean I work, I I have a steady income, I have my own place, I have a roof over my head, I can take care of my wife and my children. Being responsible extends to being able to make decisions and being able to face consequences of our decisions as time goes on. Okay. So there are other forms of bias that I'll just be touching on. But before I go there, I don't know whether anybody wants to say anything about what we've just said. I will just stop the share for now. I don't know whether anybody wants to say anything about what has been said so far. Yes. Okay. Okay, so if you would like to speak, feel free to unmute yourself and say one or two things. Or if you have any comments about what has been said, feel free to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and make a comment. Is there anybody like that? There's someone that wants to speak? No? Okay. So I will just continue sharing my screen again. Okay, so some people have a bias about other people, and I just wanted to touch on them because, for instance, if we talk about someone that has a wound, in the first session we spoke a bit about brokenness, and sometimes if I want to relate that to someone who has a wound that is not healed, we will usually start from getting whatever is like the debris in the wound out of it before we can talk about the healing process starting. And some of these first sessions are about getting the dirty debris out so that healing can start, so that wholeness can be achieved. And that's the reason for these questions. And sometimes some questions can be hard, but they're necessary. And it's very good that we ask ourselves these questions so that we do not have to face consequences later. Okay. So some people have a bias that if a person is very quiet, it means they will be agreeable. But that might just be a farce, because some people are quiet because they don't want an argument. It doesn't mean they are in agreement. And sometimes that form of disagreement is obvious from maybe the body language or the tone. And sometimes being very quiet might just be someone that is suppressed or oppressed. It's not necessarily that the person is very quiet. Most people would speak when they are in a loving environment and they feel they would be appreciated and acknowledged. There are other people that think if someone laughs a lot, they cannot get angry. And usually a coin has two sides. So if there's someone like that, you probably want to take it with a pinch of salt and evaluate people based on how they are, both in good situations and in bad situations, or how they react under pressure. There are other people that think if a person has a lot of money, they will be generous. Giving is a state of mind, so not necessarily having to do with anything in the bank. It has more to do with the kind of person and character and the kind of choices that are made. That's why you will see some people that are really rich and never give, and you will see some people who do not even have very much but are givers, and that's because they have decided to make that choice. They decided to make giving their lifestyle. Okay, and can we think of any more forms of bias? Anybody can think of any other forms of bias? Feel free to unmute yourself, please, and contribute. Okay. Looking inward, do any of the above play a part in your past or present choices? Many times we do not see people as they are, we see them as we are. Very interesting quote. And there is a difference between idealism and reality, which can be quite almost opposite sometimes. And idealism will be everything is fine, everything is wonderful, it is well, it is well. A lot of Christianese without trying to dig beneath the surface to find out what is really going on till it stares us in the face. So the fairy tale, the knight in shiny armor, rescuing the damsel in distress. Well, we will not say in distress because we don't have any damsels in distress here. We have damsels who are going somewhere to happen, focused women. Okay, so the fairy tale, knight in shiny armor, damsel, it does exist, but the wonderland has to be created. And it has to be created by each and every one of us. Everybody has a part to play. Last words, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. So many people have one experience, then they have another experience. And then before they now realize that I need to do something, I need to learn from this experience. And that's when change happens and growth takes place. And unless you learn to face your own shadows, you will continue to see them in others, because the world outside you is only a reflection of the world inside you. I don't know who said that, but that's a really beautiful quote. Just something more to think about. And this particular session is mainly about facing those shadows and having a think about things. Okay. Oops. So finally, stay in peace, shine your light, use your power, and hopefully we shall find the link. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Someone has posted in the chat box, wow, very insightful. Thank you very much, Dr. Ajibola. Thank you. Okay. Anybody have any other comments about the session? You want to say anything? Mr. Adewale, Dr. Rumoyi, Prof. Ayedu, you want to say anything about this meeting before we round up? We have just 5 minutes to the end, so we're rounding up shortly. So if anybody has any comments or questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box so that we'll take them all together tomorrow. Tomorrow's meeting is by 4, as I've said earlier. Feel free to invite as many people to join that session. So that session is supposed to be a brief recap of today's meeting and a question and answer session as well. And thank you to everybody for joining the session. And I hope to see you at the other sessions. There are going to be 9 more after this. It's going to round up finally on the first weekend of December. Promises to be an exciting time. Lots of wonderful topics that we have to discuss in the future as well. The next one is going to be about identity. Maintaining my identity, which is very important, because once that is sorted, once we know exactly who I am, who I stand for, then the issue of choices will not be an issue. And then we can go on and talk about how to make choices, how to meet people, the challenges of online dating, and things like that going forward. So it's going to be interesting. So on this note, I'd like to say bye to everybody and thank you for joining. We have the session for the ladies starting by 4 o'clock. So as many ladies as joined us on this session, I know you, I can see you. This was supposed to be the men's session, but maybe you came by mistake. Your session is supposed to start by 4 o'clock. And I hope to see you then. Thank you and bye.